put it on your toilet. And every time you go to the toilet, you will see that expression and it will just find its way into your brain. Hello everyone and Happy New Year! I hope the first couple of days of 2021 have been good to you, and as it is a new year, many people have New Year's resolutions. And if learning Korean is one of your New Year's resolutions, this is the video for you. Today I will give you 5 tips concerning the methods I used and perfected to reach level topic 6 of Korean proficiency, and just live in Korea, work in a Korean office, and speak Korean on a daily basis much more than my mother tongue or English or any other language that I know. So no matter if you want to learn Korean to understand your favorite K-pop song, or to watch your favorite K-drama without subtitles, or just to come visit or live here in the future, today I will let you in on the secret art of becoming a master of Korean. So let's get started. First, let me tell you a bit about my credentials or my linguistic background so you know you can trust me. My personal Korean language learning journey actually started back in 2012. So when I was 19, oh my god, when I was a 19-year-old baby, and I enrolled in a bachelor degree for Korean studies. Prior to enrolling in this Korean studies degree, I actually had no knowledge of the Korean language whatsoever. I had learned some Japanese, but that was still at such a basic level that it didn't really help me, but rather confused me because there's a lot of words that sound similar. So that was not a big help, and concerning Korean, I was just a blank slate. So we began the first semester by learning the Korean alphabet, Hangul, and then just do what you do in every language, like learn how to introduce yourself, learn to ask for directions, and so on and so forth. But after I finished my first year, so 2 semesters of Korean classes, I actually got really frustrated because I felt that I was not improving at all. I could not really speak to Korean people, and I totally fell into a slump. And a lot of students of Korean studies actually quit after their first 1 or 2 semesters for that reason. You don't really see the progress. And that is where my first tip comes in. It is both the most obvious and also the most important tip, and it is don't give up. Especially if you're a speaker of Western languages like German, English, French, Spanish, and so on. I mean, there's so many of them. They all have a similar root. A lot of them are related to Latin. The whole structure of the language is completely different. There's not only the obvious different alphabet, but the grammar has a whole different structure. A lot of the sounds are just not something that exists in our languages. And for those reasons, your brain just takes a much longer time to really get used to the basics of Korean in comparison to if I would learn French for 1 year, I probably would have no problem in any average conversation. But that was not the case for Korean. Especially if you have never learned another, for example, Asian language that has the same grammar structure, give yourself time. Most Korean learners need at least 1 year to really, get the basics down, get used to the language. So don't feel discouraged, even though it is easy to feel that way. And you should strive to at least complete 1 year of your language study. I personally definitely saw an exponential growth in my Korean skill once I passed that 1 year milestone. And when I entered my 2nd year of university, that leads us to my second tip as well. Tip number 2, personalize your studying method. Let me explain. Since I didn't really know anything about the Korean language, the structure, the grammar, and so on, I could just follow the lectures that we had in university up to that point. But now that I kind of had the basics down, I really knew what kind of classes were working for me and what type of classes were not working for me so well. So I could really focus on the methods and strategies that helped me learn and memorize my Korean vocabulary. Me personally, I love to organize stuff and I love to cutely decorate things. So the go-to method was to organize all my vocabulary, my grammar in a cute little notebook and then decorate it with cute little stickers and so on. And actually, most of my Korean language stuff is back in Germany, back in my university days. But this this is one of my, treasured Korean classes notebooks, and with some stickers of when I took the topic language test. And yeah, as you can see, we have some cute stickers to start out. And I'm pretty sure I bought this at Daiso for like 1,001, so like $1 years ago. And this is actually from 2015. Oh my god, this is when I was an exchange student at a Korean university. And yeah, we have 중급 한국어, so intermediate level Korean class. And as you can see, I wrote down the long list of new vocabulary. And I would say I didn't review it as much as I should have, but still, I would take this with me anywhere I go. And whenever there was like 5 minutes that I was waiting for the bus, or, I just had some time, I would whip this out and, study a little bit. And of course, here are my new grammar particles and example sentences. And yeah, this is like a lot of Korean stuff, you guys. And of course, it's filled all the way to the back. We have some 속담 here as well, so some sayings. Yeah, some Korean sayings, a lot of grammar, a lot of vocabulary that I organized like that. And while transferring the new vocabulary into a notebook like this, not only would it help me remember while transferring, but yeah, I really, made this my own. Because some of the books that people are using in Korean classes, they are really designed in such an ugly way that I really did not like looking at them. But transferring the stuff that I have to memorize in such a way really helped me. Another thing that I really liked were these little keyring notepads. I don't even know what you call this. I think I bought these ones in Muji, like the Japanese stationery store, but you can actually make them yourself if you want to, and a lot of stores sell them. And again, it's super cute, it's super convenient for taking with you wherever you go, because it's even smaller than the notebook. And here again, I would write down a new grammar particle that we learned, have the example sentence, and then at the back in German, I would explain exactly when to use that grammar, or like what the meaning of it is. Yeah, this is also a lot of stuff that I learned over the years. And in this particular case, when I really had a grammar particle down, like I really remembered it, I would just, rip it off and throw it away, and that would give me some extra satisfaction, like starting out with like a fat one like this and making it smaller and smaller by, remembering all my vocabulary, all my grammar. And of course, in here, there's also a lot of cute little stickers. That's so important. So yeah, for me, I really like organization and decoration just in everyday life, and applying that thing that I enjoy to my studies really helped me, motivate me. And yeah, it makes you much more happy to look at a very cute notebook, or a notebook that fits your style, rather than some kind of weird textbook that the university is making you use. So whatever it is for you, maybe you like color coding your texts, maybe you like to watch videos where, new vocabulary is shown to you. Whatever it is you enjoy, make that into a study method, and it will help you enormously. Here are some of my cute notebooks that keep me motivated while studying. I have lots and lots of stickers, and especially this cute round white rabbit is my favorite character. It's called Malang, and yeah, it's super cute. And some decorative tape cannot be missed, so here is my collection. But of course, even after finding the learning style that you enjoy, there's only so much that you can do by yourself. So my third tip is to meet Korean people. Back at my university, I think once a semester, we had an event where Korean people living in Berlin who want to learn German could come to our university and meet the Korean studies students who want to learn Korean. So for an hour or two, we would just talk to each other, and if you think you get along well with someone, you can become study partners. Some people did it very organized, like they met up and for 1 hour they would just learn Korean, for 1 hour they would just learn German. But I think most people, they just met up, had coffee together, did some cooking together and stuff like that. So some of my language partners from back then are actually still good friends of mine today. And yeah, I think because of that common interest in learning a foreign language and the interest in each other's country, those kind of acquaintances can really become long friendships. Having a language partner is also very helpful and efficient because if you're learning by yourself, there's no one really that you can ask questions to. And if you are in a big class, the teacher has to take care of everyone. They might not be able to answer all of your questions. And sometimes you might feel shy to ask a question that everybody already knows. So having a language partner that is just focused on you, one-to-one, is very helpful for that. And they usually also can tell you a lot about, Korean culture, Korean customs, not just about the language itself. Of course, depending on where you live and also in our current times, it might not be the easiest to just go out and meet Korean people. However, there are many, many websites and apps and, chat rooms that are designed for people who want to learn a new language. So I will leave some of them down below in the description. But please still remember to be careful when chatting with a stranger online. There definitely are a lot of weirdos on those kind of language exchange websites. So yeah, just be careful of that and then you should be fine. My fourth tip is something that is both very easy but also very essential, and it is to introduce the Korean language in your everyday life. When I was learning Korean, one of the most difficult things was that I was not in Korea. So my surroundings were, German and German people and German language. And it was really hard to, have that constant input of Korean language. And of course, that means every time we had time off from school, my Korean skill would just decrease slightly. So yeah, having a bit of Korean in your everyday life is very, very important. One of the most effective ways in which you can introduce Korean in your everyday life is to change your language setting on your phone or your computer to Korean. Wow, crazy, right? Actually, doing that seemed a little bit scary to me at first because I was like, what if I cannot understand my phone anymore and I cannot use it anymore? But you're pretty much used to which function of your phone is anyway. So although it is kind of muscle memory, you will really be able to learn words like 설정 or 저장, 편집, 삭제, stuff like that are really used in everyday life in Korea as well. And you can just get used to them organically by, looking at them every day on your phone. Another method I really enjoyed was putting post-its with Korean vocabulary on everything. When you first start out learning Korean, you could keep it very simple. For example, we have our bookshelf that's 책장, so you can post a post-it saying 책장 on there. Or we have the book, which is 책, same thing there, put a post-it on your chair, put one on your wardrobe, like wherever you are, just put the post-its there. But even when you advance to higher levels, it is still a very helpful strategy because even when you're trying to memorize a very complex expression or grammar, you can just write it on a post-it and, put it on your toilet. And every time you go to the toilet, you will see that expression and it will just, find its way into your brain. You might have to get some permission from the people you live with, but this is really one of the most effective methods to really bombard yourself with Korean every day. And of course, it's always good to consume Korean pop culture. So be it listening to K-pop songs, but also reading the lyrics and trying to understand them, watching a Korean movie or drama, first with English subtitles, and then on the second round, you can watch them with Korean subtitles, or reading Korean webtoons, a lot of which have already been translated into English and several other languages. So it's the same training method. You read a bit in Korean, and if you don't know a word, you check it in the English version, and then you keep reading and checking and reading and checking. In that way, you can not only combine enjoyment and studying, but you also get exposed to a much wider variety of vocabulary and especially, kind of slang expressions, in comparison to just using a textbook. At least that was always my excuse for watching Korean drama and reading webtoons a lot. And last but not least, tip number 5, come to Korea. A total no-brainer, and I do feel a bit bad saying this because I know it is much easier said than done, but it is so worth it. I know it might still take some time until any of us are able to freely travel again, but when you get the chance, I can really only highly recommend you come to Korea at least for like a week or two, because not only is it extremely helpful to just immerse yourself in the country, you know, hearing Korean everywhere, every store that you go to, you hear K-pop or some other Korean song coming out. Everywhere you go, you see Hangul everywhere. So it's really helpful to immerse yourself in the language. But not only that, I can confidently say that coming to Korea when you're learning Korean is just such a huge motivation. As I said, after my first year of studying Korean, I was so demotivated that I considered dropping out of my degree because I just did not see, you know, the meaning of it all. But then I spent about 1 month with some university friends in Korea, just traveling a little bit, and it was just, you know, a whole new world. It was not my first time in Korea, but it really showed me, oh yeah, this is why I'm studying this. I want to study in such a country, live in such a country. So it really revived my passion for Korea and for the Korean language. So yeah, although it might not be the easiest thing to do, I would definitely recommend coming to Korea to any person learning Korean. And actually, to help with that, I plan on making a video on the KGSP scholarship, although I think now it's called the GKS scholarship. Anyway, it's a scholarship for studying in Korea. So there are various programs for the bachelor and master's and PhD degree. So yeah, no matter where you are in your academic journey, you might be able to apply for the KGSP scholarship. So be sure to subscribe to not miss my video on the KGSP scholarship, how I got it, my tips, and yeah, how you can study in Korea too. Apart from that, you can click here to watch an older video of mine where I talk about my favorite and least favorite Korean language books. And if today's video was helpful for you, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up. If you have any further questions about learning Korean, how I learned Korean, or anything related, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And stay happy and healthy. Bye bye!